When listening to Krishnamurti, it can be difficult to take what he says and organize it into a structure that makes sense to you. In this video, we give an overview of how the mind works using the terms Krishnamurti uses and represent that visually using a model that we call the mind model. So, what is the mind? The mind is the field of sensation. This is a typical view of the mind you may experience when walking through a park. Your mind contains visual sensation, what you see, auditory sensation, what you hear, olfactory sensation, what you smell, and so on. We categorize these as physical sensations. At the same time, your mind may also contain thoughts, experienced as words and pictures, and emotions experienced as feelings. Therefore, your mind contains physical and psychological sensations, so we can model it as follows. The origin of physical sensation is the physical senses. The physical senses are contained on the body. The origin of psychological sensations is knowledge. Take thought as an example. You think in English because you know English. A Russian thinks in Russian, and a Romanian thinks in Romanian. Thought and emotion are directly related. Angry thoughts create the emotion of anger. The emotion of anger creates angry thoughts. So emotion arises from knowledge too, and this enables us to state that psychological sensations arise from knowledge. Both physical sensation and psychological sensation are recorded into knowledge. To demonstrate this, we can give a simple example. For instance, observe this object in my hand. Now, if I ask you what colour the object was, you are able to answer black, and the reason you can answer that question is because you recorded the perception of that object in my hand in the past. In our example, we are walking through the park. We are able to walk through the park because our brain, through knowledge, has the ability to move our body. So we represent this capacity on the model as follows. We refer to the expressions of knowledge as thought. The appearance of words in the mind is the activity of thought. The appearance of emotions in the mind is the activity of thought. The movement of the body is the activity of thought. As you can see, the model is circular, and this shows that the mind is involved in two cycles, a physical cycle and a psychological cycle. The physical cycle is where we observe the physical environment around us and respond to it with physical movement. The psychological cycle is where we produce thoughts that enter the mind. Those thoughts are then observed and recorded back into the knowledge that created them. The physical cycle and the psychological cycle interoperate. For instance, you may see an object in the visual field and then think about it. Vice versa, you may think about something and that inspires you to move your body. Where what we know meets what we see, we call the observer. Thought arises out of the observer because the observer is the one that thinks. The observer is the thinker. Thus, our model shows thought emerging from the observer. Attention can be unconstricted, in which we are aware of everything happening in the mind, or constricted, in which we focus on something specific. Focus works through exclusion. To focus on something, I must exclude everything that is not that thing from my awareness. For instance, when you are in a group and someone says, "Can you hear that?" your response is to immediately ignore to some degree visual sensation and give your attention to the sounds you are hearing. This shows you that through attention you can exclude whole forms of sensation. It is also possible to focus on a specific object in a field of sensation. For instance, when a dog is acting aggressively towards you, you focus specifically on the dog and completely ignore the background you're observing. So, what is attention? Attention is the aperture of observation. So we can place this in between observation and the observer. How then does awareness fit into all this? Awareness is the outcome of observation after it has been constricted by attention. Here are two models that visualize the impact of attention on awareness. The top model shows attention constricting observation through focusing on something and the impact that has on awareness. The bottom model shows attention not being constricted and having no impact on awareness. Krishnamurti referred to the focusing of attention as concentration, so we can modify our diagrams in line with the terminology he uses. This diagram shows the flow of information entering ourselves, and this is the mind model.